Revenge films.
My name is Sarah Smith. I live together with my 6-year-old daughter, Michelle. I got married to my former husband 7 years ago, and when I turned 23 years old, I gave birth to our beautiful daughter. However, 5 years ago, due to an unfortunate accident, I lost my beloved husband. I was left having to raise my daughter as a single mother by myself. Currently, I'm doing just that while also working as a preschool teacher. Because I had the inheritance that my husband had left for my daughter and myself, we weren't going to struggle with our lives for the time being. However, when I thought about all of the costs that I was going to have to bear as I raised my daughter and she got older, I knew it wasn't going to be enough, so I worked like my life depended on it. Because of this stress, I would only go to and from my workplace and home every day. And I didn't go out much at all otherwise. As I was repeating this life, the days passed on and time flew by. Before I knew it, and by the time I realized, it had already been 5 years since my late husband passed away. Then one day, in the most unexpected way, I received an offer for marriage through a phone call that came to me. And that phone call came about 1 week after I had attended the wedding of my friend Nancy. The phone call was from the bride herself, and I was surprised to get a phone call out of nowhere. As it turns out, the older brother of the groom had taken an interest in me. My friend asked if I would be willing to meet him just once to see if we could be a match. But I told her that I wasn't really up for it, considering I was a single mother widow with a young daughter. But then her response was that this guy knew about my daughter and was okay with it, and so I decided that it wouldn't hurt to meet him just once as a trial. So on the day of the wedding, I did as I was instructed by my friend Nancy, and I headed towards the small restaurant where we were going to meet. When I got there, Nancy was sitting at a table together with a single man, so I introduced myself and said, "Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah." "Oh, please, what do you mean, nice to meet you? You've met before at the wedding, don't you remember?" I'm sorry, I wasn't really paying attention much to what was happening around me besides the wedding.
Nice to meet you. My name is Kevin.
"This is my husband's older brother. He's 3 years older than us, so he's 32. He's still single, and so my mother-in-law's worried about him too." "I see. Well, it's nice to officially meet you."
If it's all right with you, will you please become my friend?
"Sure, I'd be happy to." Kevin seemed a bit airheaded, but he was easygoing and being around him was really fun. But that being said, because I had a young daughter, I was quite cautious. And given the circumstances, I didn't want to start dating him immediately. However, as we started going on more and more dates, I found that my heart was opening up to him little by little. And then 3 months after we met, Kevin seriously asked me out and we began our relationship. I thought about introducing him to my young daughter, but because I was so cautious about the whole situation, in the end I didn't find the courage to introduce them just yet. Kevin and I would go on dates while my daughter was at preschool. The days went by and 1 year passed of our relationship. One day, Kevin told me that he wanted to introduce me to his mother. In Kevin's family, his father had already passed away, and he was living at home along with his mom and his brother and his wife Nancy at their family home. Apparently, he told his mom that he had a girlfriend that he was dating with marriage in mind for the future, and when he reported that to her, he said that she really wanted to meet me. To be honest, I hadn't been thinking so far ahead to marriage yet, but Kevin always said that it was okay if I had a daughter and that he would make the both of us happy with his life. And when I heard those words, I thought that maybe I could consider marrying this person. And so, I decided that I would go and meet Kevin's mother with marriage in mind for the future. On the day of, just past noon, I was really nervous as I arrived at Kevin's family house, and when I got there, other than his mother, Nancy and her husband were also there to welcome me in. "Nice to meet you. My name is Sarah." "You're friends with Nancy, isn't that right? Oh, in that case, that's a big relief. Welcome. Come on in." We were all making small talk, and the house was full of a warm and friendly atmosphere. But then Kevin started talking to his mother about the future.
Hey, Mom, I wanted to tell you that I want to get married to Sarah in the future.
"Oh my, oh that makes me happy. That means you will finally have your own household."
Yeah, I want to make Sarah and Sarah's daughter the happiest girls in the world.
Wait, what did you just say? The moment that Kevin's mother heard the words Sarah's daughter, her face very clearly changed. "Wait a minute, Kevin, you hadn't told your mother that I have a daughter?" "You have a daughter? Are you once divorced? Are you kidding me? Who do you think would ever allow their son to get married to a single mother that is once divorced? You need to break up with her immediately."
Mom, calm down. It's not like that.
"Ma'am, please don't raise your voice."
So you knew this and you were hiding it from me? That means that you were trying to trick me into this one. Oh, there's no way I'm going to accept any marriage to used goods like this secondhand woman. Absolutely not. Break up with her and get out of my house.
Her words were so awful that I was at a loss for words, and I was no longer able to stand there. I got up and I ran away from the scene, but then Kevin came chasing after me. He grabbed me by the arm.
Hey, Sarah, I don't want to let you go over something like this.
But if your mother is going to say that much, there's no way.
Don't worry. I have a good idea.
What is it?
Why don't you send your daughter off to an orphanage? If you put her in a care center, then my mom probably won't be against our marriage.
Excuse me? Did you just say put Michelle in an orphanage? I thought I must be hearing things. I never once thought about ever putting my sweet, beloved daughter into a care center. And of course, I don't have any intention of ever doing so either. Because Kevin said that he also wanted to make my daughter happy. I decided that I would be willing to date him with marriage in mind for the future. But in this situation, I was overwhelmed with the feeling of being betrayed. And at that very moment, I decided that I was going to break up with Kevin. I'm sorry, but I thought you were a different person. We're breaking up.
Wait, but why? You don't want to get married to me?
No, I don't want to be together with somebody that's telling me to throw my daughter away. I can't love you anymore. So goodbye. As I tried to leave, Nancy and her husband were standing there looking really sorry. Sarah! I'm sorry, but I can't fall in love with this man, nor would I ever be able to like his mother. When I said that, Nancy looked really sad as she looked down at her feet, but I turned my back on Nancy and I quickly walked away from the house. A few days later, I was getting a massive number of messages from Kevin with requests to get back together, but I denied all of his requests and started to ignore his messages. And yet he wasn't backing off and sending a lot of messages, so I was feeling troubled about it. When I got a message from Nancy, she told me that she wanted to talk to me over the weekend. And even though I didn't really want to, I decided to say yes to her. I figured that she was just contacting me to try and get me to get back together with Kevin, and I couldn't help but feel a distrust towards my own friend Nancy. The day before we had plans, I went to pick my daughter up from preschool and was on my way home when I saw Kevin standing in front of our apartment. I was shocked to see him, and as soon as he saw me, he ran over to me and put on his usual kind smile. However, in the next moment, the most shocking words that were the complete opposite of that smile flew out of his mouth.
There you are! So that little girl is Michelle? Come on, Michelle, you're gonna come with me!
In that moment, I felt a sense of danger, and I grabbed my daughter by the arm and I pushed Kevin off, who was trying to take her away. What are you doing? Get away from her!
Obviously, I'm gonna take her to an orphanage center because you and I are getting married.
I looked at my daughter, who was shaking from head to toe with fear, and I used all of my strength to grab her back from Kevin, and I ran into the apartment and locked the door. And then I held my daughter in my arms, who was still terrified and crying. I realized that maybe I might need to move in the near future, and with everything that happened, I was unable to sleep that whole night. The next day, after I sent my daughter off to preschool, I headed towards the cafe, where I was supposed to meet Nancy. As soon as I got to the cafe and Nancy saw me, her eyes welled up with tears. But I didn't have the emotional capacity to care for Nancy at the moment, so as soon as I opened my mouth, I told her everything that happened yesterday. But then suddenly Nancy started crying out loud. I completely thought that she had called me out today to try and get me and Kevin back together, so I was shocked at her reaction. And then Nancy said, "Sarah, I am so sorry. I had no idea that my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law were those kinds of people. And this whole time, I really regretted introducing him to you to begin with. This was all my fault." Really? My husband also feels terrible and wanted to apologize to you too. And after we thought about everything, we've decided not to live with them anymore. What? Ever since you broke up with him, my brother-in-law's been depressed and he can't even get around to his work. So I heard he's about to get fired from his job. If we move out, then I can already see that my husband's family is going to fall apart, but my husband says that's fine. Are you sure it's okay for you guys to do that? Because I watched with my own eyes as they hurt a precious friend of mine. What else am I supposed to do? Nancy. After that, Nancy and her husband really did move out of their family house, and they cut off all ties with Kevin and his mother. After Kevin and I broke up, apparently he was making so many mistakes at work that the company didn't know what to do with him anymore and they fired him. His mother was living off of Social Security, and there was no way that she would be able to support the two of them. And so they were both stuck having to be in debt to consumer finances in order to survive. As a result of that, Kevin was going to spend the rest of his life single while fighting with his mother, as the two of them lived together. As for me, after everything that happened, it actually deepened my relationship with Nancy, and we started seeing each other more often. Not long after that, Nancy also became pregnant and gave birth to a beautiful child. And these days, our children play together while we hang out as fellow moms. In order to make sure that Kevin doesn't stalk me, I moved out of my old apartment. But when I moved into the new place, I fell in love at first sight with a man who lived in the same building, and we began dating. Recently, he's also started playing with my daughter, and I've been very lucky to develop a beautiful relationship with him. From now on, I'm going to prioritize my daughter and make sure that I don't get caught up with any terrible men like Kevin. And while raising Michelle, I hope to also think about my future happiness little by little as well.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.